Hello, classic rock fans. I'm reporting just a couple of days after attending Crusherfest in South Milwaukee, which is a festival where I saw a couple of bands play, specifically Richrath Project 313 and Chris Jericho's band Kuarantine. So yeah, a lot going on in this video, and I'm going to dive right in. First up, what is Crusherfest? Crusherfest is a semi-annual festival that is held in South Milwaukee to celebrate and honor the legacy of one Reggie Lisowski, aka The Crusher. The Crusher was a local and beloved pro wrestler who made his name in the, 60s, 70s, and 80s. He was one of Milwaukee's biggest stars. He wrestled in a number of promotions, including the AWA. Basically, he was the hometown hero that Hulk Hogan would team up with anytime the then WWF would come through Milwaukee. In fact, there's some great videos on YouTube where you can find The Crusher and Hulk Hogan cutting promos for their upcoming events that the WWE would have back in the 80s.
But since he went to the gym and trained my way, I guess I'm gonna have to hang with him and drink a few brews now.
That's right. I got the trucks ready with the beer. We're all ready to go up and down Wisconsin Avenue. This is the greatest news since the Green Bay Packers have won the Super Bowl. They forgot about it. In fact, we might start playing for the Packers. They don't play any better. We've gone out here to win this whole thing once and for all. Now you got to train my way. So, how about that?
I don't know if The Crusher's the most famous pro wrestler from Wisconsin, but he's up there. And he's certainly going to stay that way because in 2019, they put up a statue of this guy. That's right. In South Milwaukee, they have a statue of The Crusher. And Crusherfest is designed basically to raise funds to help upkeep that statue. The statue was unveiled in 2019, and every other year since then, there's been a Crusherfest to again celebrate his legacy and basically have a big party in South Milwaukee for a weekend. Now, what do you do at Crusherfest? Well, I would describe it as the normal stuff that you would find at local street festivals. You have vendors selling food and food trucks pulled up on the streets that are closed off so people can just walk up to them. You have other vendors that are selling various pro wrestling related stuff and also non-wrestling related knickknacks and products. Some of it's cool and some of it's junk, which is fairly typical for street festivals like this. The main sources of entertainment are in the wrestling tent and in the commons area, the park that has a little amphitheater deal set up. In the wrestling tent, you have a couple of tables set up for special guests, older pro wrestlers who are making an appearance to sign autographs and pose for photos. And then you have other vendors who are selling exclusively wrestling memorabilia like DVDs and t-shirts and like baseball cards, but for wrestlers, all that kind of stuff. And later in the day, in the wrestling tent, they have a ring set up and they will have like a wrestling program. So you'll have matches from local wrestlers. Sometimes some of the guest stars will make appearances in the rings and have a match. And that's the primary draw for people coming to Crusherfest, is to see this local wrestling show. And then the other source of entertainment is in the commons area, which is this little park that has like a band shell set up. And they have bands throughout the day that play a lot of polka because, Milwaukee's famous for polka music, and The Crusher loved that stuff.
Now, Crusher, you've even got this poor excuse for a world champion walking around smoking cigars. You're both doing the polka day and night. You're dancing with dollies and barmaids and bar rags and this and that and this and that. I'm sick and tired of hearing about The Crusher. I'm sick and tired of hearing about your beer, your polkas, your cigars, the stinking city of Milwaukee, and everything else.
And also your typical classic rock cover bands or blues bands. I'd say, again, typical street festival entertainment. The first Crusherfest I went to was in 2023. I was only there for a couple of hours, just enough to get something to eat, look around, and go into the wrestling tent to get a photo with $1 million man Ted DiBiase. Yeah, that was a fun memory. After taking that picture, he immediately turned his body away from me, so when I attempted to just say thank you for the picture, he was looking in the opposite direction at nothing in particular, just to make sure that we didn't have any sort of conversation. So that was cool. But, you know, whatever. I know some of those guys really don't like this autograph stuff that they have to do, but it is what it is. To be honest, I only wanted a photo with him because at the time I thought there was a chance he was going to jail, and I thought that'd be a funny picture. So maybe he knew I wasn't there with the best of intentions. This year, they had some more special guests, including Tito Santana, Scotty 2 Hotty, Tommy Dreamer, and Jimmy Hart was supposed to be there. Unfortunately, Jimmy Hart had to cancel due to another commitment. That was a shame because that was absolutely a guy I would have loved to have gotten a photo with. You know, his manager stuff back in the day is fine, but I'm really a Jimmy Hart fan because of all the music he's responsible for. You know, he wrote the theme song for Ted DiBiase and Sexy Boy for Shawn Michaels. So he's a wrestling music legend, and I would have loved just an opportunity to say thank you for all that great music, which I love quite a few Jimmy Hart compositions. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it there for this one. So I didn't get any photos with any of the wrestlers. From some other people at the event, I heard that Tito Santana could not have been nicer, which is very cool. But on the flip side, I also heard that Scotty 2 Hotty absolutely could have been nicer. So, whatever. I guess I'll just say, if you're in the Milwaukee area, don't sleep on this event. This is a really cool little festival. It's growing still, so I would encourage anyone who lives around here to keep tabs on this event and try to attend, even if you're not the biggest wrestling fan. It's just a fun way to spend a weekend. Okay, now let's get to the music. First band, Richrath Project 313. Subscribers to this channel might remember that I have previously reviewed a concert by Richrath Project 313. I saw their show at Greendale Village Days back in 2022. It was fantastic, and after that show, I managed to talk to the lead singer of the band, Michael Jans, and I invited him to be a guest on this podcast. So shortly after I reviewed that show, Michael came on as a guest and talked to me about that band's origins and the music that they play and the CDs they have out. So what it is a celebration of the music from REO Speedwagon. Specifically, the music written by original REO guitarist Gary Richrath.
Playing all the rocking classics of REO Speedwagon the way Gary Richrath played it. Harder and more rockin'.
Gary Richrath wrote a bunch of REO's biggest hits, and he's considered to be one of the great guitar players of the 1970s. He left REO Speedwagon at the end of the 80s, and he launched a solo career in the early 90s. And the lead singer of his band, Richrath, was Michael Jans. So you could certainly describe the band as a tribute or celebration of the music of REO Speedwagon, but it's also a continuation of the band that Michael had formed with Gary when Gary was launching his post-REO solo career. So if you're a Gary Richrath fan, I would wager that you will have much more fun at a Richrath Project 313 show than an REO Speedwagon show. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say REO Speedwagon? I meant Kevin Cronin Band concert. Oh, that's right. REO Speedwagon doesn't exist anymore. I don't have time to get into all that drama here, so I'll just say, instead of paying top dollar to see an abbreviated set on a package tour in a stadium where you're going to be sitting miles away, most likely, from Kevin Cronin, if you want to see REO Speedwagon music, why don't you go see Richrath Project 313 instead? They'll play a longer set, the tickets will be cheaper, and the lead singer isn't making some weird-ass self-destructive power play. Oh boy, my feelings about REO are coming through a little bit here. Okay, I said I wasn't going to get into that drama, so let me just focus on the music. Richrath Project 313 played about 13 songs, most of which were on the harder rock side of REO's catalog. REO, of course, is famous for their ballads, their big MTV ballads. And Richrath Project will play some of those because they were big hits and everybody recognizes them, but most of this set is, again, that older, harder rock side of the band. Songs like Keep Pushin', Back on the Road Again, Like You Do, Golden Country, Roll with the Changes, 157 Riverside Avenue, and Riding the Storm Out. You know, for a lot of you old school REO fans, that's the best stuff from the catalog. In short, they're trying to present this version of REO Speedwagon much more than this version of REO Speedwagon, if that makes any sense. But it's not all REO songs. They have some originals that Michael wrote, and also some that Michael recorded back with Gary during that post-REO solo run for Gary Richrath. In the show I saw, they played a Gary Richrath song called Outlaws.
This is about Gary leaving REO Speedwagon and then in 1989, and then he found me and a new group of guys, and this is called Outlaws.
Now, the band's name might throw you off. Richrath Project 313. Well, if you see the interview I did with Michael, he explains the story behind the name. Project 313 comes from an inside joke that Michael had with Gary back in the day. So don't think of it just as an REO Speedwagon tribute band. Think of it as a Gary Richrath celebratory project. And I want to emphasize that because, again, REO Speedwagon, that name has been kind of dragged through the mud over the last couple of months. So if you want to enjoy that music without thinking about all that drama, this band is a great way to do that. Now, keeping in mind that this band is meant to be a tribute to a legendary guitar player, whoever is playing guitar in that band, there's some pretty high expectations. Michael plays guitar, but he's not the guitarist. He's the lead singer. The guitarist in the band is a guy named Dennis Pockets. And that dude can shred. He is seriously good. Dennis is fantastic. He has a couple of guitar solos throughout the night, and both times I've seen them, he's been absolutely excellent. So yeah, you can go into this band with high expectations, as you should, because again, Gary's one of the all-time greats, but the guy they have to play all those solos and to play those riffs and to keep that music chugging along, they found a really talented dude to take that spot. So definitely want to give him a shout out. But I really should shout out everybody in the band. They've been doing this for a number of years now. It looks like they could do it in their sleep, and all of them have their various moments throughout the show that really stand out. So, all in all, it is a fantastic concert. If you get a chance to see Richrath Project 313, I would highly recommend it. And on top of all that, you'll most likely have every opportunity to meet these guys after the show. If you want to get a picture with them or ask them a question about music or whatever, I know they are more than happy to indulge. So yeah, to be as clear as I can, of all the bands that I recommend and want to highlight and celebrate on this channel, Richrath Project 313 is one I feel particularly strong about. I think this is a really cool outfit. I think they're underrated, so definitely check them out if they come to your town. Okay, now let's get to the main event. Saturday night's main event at Crusherfest, Chris Jericho's other band, Kuarantine.
Hey, it's Chris Jericho here, and we are so excited to bring Kuarantine to Crusherfest, May 31st in Milwaukee. We're going to be doing the greatest non-makeup era Kiss songs. It's going to be a rock and roll party.
Kuarantine is a Kiss tribute band, specifically the non-makeup era of Kiss from the early 80s through, I think, the mid-90s. Which works for me. I'm a big fan of 80s Kiss. So I guess this band got started, as the name gives away, during the 2020 lockdown. Now, I don't know a whole lot about the genesis of this project. Chris Jericho has his main band, Fozzy, which he's been singing with for years now. But I guess it's kind of like how Dave Grohl has Chevy Metal as just a fun party covers band. Maybe Jericho was trying to do the same thing and just have a fun side project band where you just play covers of your favorite Kiss songs. And I guess Jericho likes 80s Kiss, which is great because I do too. So I was really interested to see how this would go. Now, I'll also say that given that this was a wrestling event, there was a side of me that couldn't help being a little snarky, a little bit of a smart mark, and thinking, I don't know, man, cover band, can Jericho even sing? And I wasn't totally sure how I was going to react to this. And part of me thought I might only be staying for like the first 15 minutes. But I am happy to say that I was absolutely, completely wrong on that account, because this was one of the most fun shows I've seen all year. For starters, like I said earlier, this isn't some big stage. It's a platform maybe about 2 feet off the ground with a band shell over it. And the reserved seats that were set up were only a few feet away from that platform. So everybody who had a reserved seat, which is what I did, were super close to the band, and they were almost at eye level with us. So it was a very close-up, intimate feel for a show, and I don't get a chance to see many shows like that. So that was a great experience. Now, it wasn't a particularly big crowd. I would guess probably between maybe 200 and 250 people, something like that. And that's not Crusherfest's fault. That's not Jericho's fault. I think that's like the attendees' fault. I think not enough people came over from the wrestling tent when the wrestling program ended. I think too many of those people just went home when they should have been coming over to the Commons area to experience some of this awesome live music. But hey, it was good for me because, again, I was able to move up even closer to the stage and had just an absolutely awesome time. Now, to be perfectly honest, I don't even know that many 80s Kiss songs. I'm not the biggest Kiss fan. Not because I don't like them, it's just I've never really deep dived their catalog, to my regret. So, a lot of the music that Jericho played was like the first time I was hearing some of these songs, and everyone I didn't recognize, I totally liked, even though so many of them were really dumb. Like, they have a song called All Night. And you know what? It was really fucking fun. It was funny as hell, and the crowd was singing along to it. There were like chanting moments in the song. You can guess what they were. And everybody got into it, so it just made for a lot of fun. Jericho was all over the stage, jumping up on the side platform, so he was singing out like at the houses that were across the street almost. He was wearing this great robe, so he almost looked like Ric Flair from back in the day. I guess this is a tradition with him, but some women were throwing bras at him, which was really funny, because that's like a Tom Jones thing. So I got a kick out of that. He opened with I Just Wanna and Heaven's on Fire. Heaven's on Fire is one of my all-time favorite Kiss songs, and as soon as he finished playing that, any thoughts about leaving early were immediately out of my mind. My friend and I, who were there, we had talked about maybe ducking out to go to the bar. Both of us in that moment were like, we're staying. This is too good. We are having too much fun. We are not leaving early. After that, they did Heart of Chrome, which I believe he's released as a single, and that was really good. You have Good Girl Gone Bad, All Hell's Breaking Loose. Now, at that point, we had to make a bathroom break because I'll admit, I had been drinking a number of Hulk Hogan's Real American beer, so I did need to take a bathroom break. A point about that beer, nothing special, just your mediocre macro brew, but good marketing because it was $1 cheaper than every other beer at Crusherfest. So yeah, I drank a bunch of those. Now when I came back, they were singing Cold Gin, which of course is from the makeup era of Kiss, the classic era of Kiss. He says on stage, it's primarily about the non-makeup era. They will do classic Kiss era songs as well.
Love Gun, Cold Gin, Detroit Rock City. Don't you dare miss it. Quarantine is going to rock the house.
It's just that most of them will be from the non-makeup era. After that, Who Wants to Be Lonely, Fits Like a Glove, Turn on the Night. That's a great song. That was one I wasn't familiar with, and I really enjoyed that. Yeah, then like I said, All Night. And then after that was Love Gun, which again goes back to that classic era. And then the encore songs were Detroit Rock City and Lick It Up. But there was a bit of a funny moment. Jericho started up with Detroit Rock City, and a couple of lines in, he straight up forgot the words and had to pause and start the song over.
I totally forgot the fucking words to Detroit Rock City.
And you know what? That was really funny. It was honestly charming. It reminded me of the time I saw Billy Joel way back in 2008, where he was going to be playing an instrumental piece called Root Beer Rag. And he was saying to the crowd, you know, there's no pre-recorded stuff on this. I have to do this all myself, so you might hear a genuine, real-life rock and roll fuck-up.
This is an instrumental piece, and the odds are that I'm going to screw it up. So, but if there is a mistake, you will know. We're not taped, we're not lip-syncing here. What you will hear might be an authentic rock and roll fuck-up.
And I think about that from time to time when I see a show and something goes a little wrong. If you got a sense of humor about it, which Jericho did, who cares? No problem. Honestly, kind of charming. So, like I said, everyone was having such a good time that no one would begrudge him for that. And then after that was Lick It Up, which is a great sing-along number, and that was the end of the show. We got out of there right away, but I know that there were some fans that paid extra to stick around to get a meet and greet with Jericho, and Chris also posted a photo of him with the Crusher statue after the show, and that's pretty cool. So yeah, I had an absolutely fantastic time. I didn't really know what to expect going into the show, and I have to say it only took 2 songs until I realized that I was having some of the most fun that I'll have at a show all year. It absolutely blew my mind. A lot of it has to do with the venue at Crusherfest that allowed fans to be that up close to the artist. Again, I don't often get opportunities like that, so I really enjoyed that aspect of the show. But for the most part, I really just got to give credit to Chris Jericho, who had so much enthusiasm and energy. It really did remind me of seeing a band, a classic rock band that I really like, back in their prime. Because unfortunately, I see a lot of classic rock bands that at this stage of their career, the energy level isn't necessarily there. The enthusiasm is kind of low. Sometimes you can tell when a band's going through the motions or aren't having that much fun on stage. And when you can sense that energy on stage, it's hard to make up for it in the stands. So seeing someone as enthusiastic and energetic and having as much fun as Chris Jericho was, that's really easy to feed off of. That's really easy to get into as well. So I think for the most part, I just have to give props to Chris Jericho for putting on one hell of a kick-ass rock and roll show. To his credit. Seriously, it was awesome. Okay, at long last, I can say a hearty thumbs up to Richrath Project 313, Chris Jericho and Kuarantine, and Crusherfest as a whole. Saturday was an absolutely fantastic day of pro wrestling fun and also great rock music. I really appreciate everything that went on, and I'm really happy that I attended the event. So next time they do a Crusherfest, if you're in the area, I would really recommend you check it out. If you've enjoyed this review, I would recommend you check out some of the other concert reviews I've done on this channel. If you're a classic rock fan, I guarantee I've reviewed a show from a band or artist that you're a fan of. I've covered some wrestling topics on this channel as well. If you're a wrestling fan, I interviewed Dave Penzer from WCW, who's had his own little history with Chris Jericho back in the day, so you might enjoy those interviews. And like I mentioned earlier, please definitely check out my interview with Michael Jans from Richrath Project 313. He is a great guy. I'm so happy I got a chance to catch up with him at the show. Maybe we'll have him back on in the future. I'm sure he's got some thoughts on all this REO drama that's been going on, so hey, who knows. But with that, I will just say thank you very much for watching this video. Check out Richrath Project 313. Check out Kuarantine with Chris Jericho. And if you've seen either of them, please tell me what you thought about those shows in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks again for watching. Keep rocking. And in the immortal words of the Crusher, how about that?
How about that?
What a king
that.
Coaching time again.